Hey, what's up YouTube? I'm JT at delicatebeats.com. Today I want to show you how I make beats on Logic Pro X. I've been asked by some of my beginner subscribers to tell them, the very basic stuff about the software. So I decided to make a few short clips to show you the main features of the software and how I use them to make the beats that I make. So if you've already used Logic Pro in the past, or if you know how to make beats, this might not be for you because I'm going to go into some very newbie stuff. But for the other ones, stay tuned and I'm going to show you how. The first thing we want to do is create a new project or session. When you go into the File menu and click New, you're presented with this screen, and there are already a couple of song templates that you can choose from. Some of those come already preloaded with Ultra Beat for the drums and a few synths, but I'm going to open up an empty project to show you the difference between MIDI and Wave. Okay, so right off the bat, Logic asks me to create new tracks. So what I'm going to do is create 4 software instrument tracks. And those are going to be the MIDI tracks that I'm going to use for software instruments. And now I'm going to also create 4 wave tracks. So if I go here, I can press this button for new tracks. And instead of software instruments, I'm going to create audio tracks. So here you can choose an input if you plan on recording vocals or a guitar or whatever, but I'm going to choose no input. And for the output, 1 and 2, which is my main output, and I'm going to create 4 tracks. Now I want to grab your attention for this very useful button, which is the duplicate track. So if, for example, I have a sound that I like here, but for some reason I want to duplicate the track, I can just press this guy here. And this is going to be an exact copy of this one with the instrument and the plugins and the panning and the volume information. Okay, so let's say I don't want this track. You can just press the delete button on your keyboard and voila, no more track. Now, let's take a look at some of the main buttons and features on this Arrange window. By the way, Logic is broken down in a few windows, and if we look here, here, we have the different windows. So let's say, for example, I want to mix my track, even though I don't have any tracks right now. I'll go here, press Show Mixer, and Logic is going to create a window pane. And if I don't need the mixer, I can either just double click here when this icon appears and the mixer is gone. Right. So now what I want to show you is the left sidebar. The track that's highlighted is always presented on the left here. So it's very useful to control the panning and the different plugins that I have when I'm working on a specific track. If you don't need it, you can just click here and it's gone. The same goes for the instrument library. I can go here, for example, and create a natural strum instrument, and it's going to basically load up a channel strip. This is more for mixing purposes, so I'm not going to use it for now, and I'm going to close this guy. But just so you know, you can load up channel strips, which is a sequence of plugins for mixing right on the channel, the mixer channel of the track. So to begin, okay, let's keep on going. So these are the tracks. each of these lines here is a separate. These are the measures. So when you hear about, pop track sequence such as, intro, verse, chorus or pre-chorus, bridge, these sequences are counted based on measures in bars. Okay, so here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 4 bars, and this is going to be our basic building block for sequences. So you notice when I clicked here on this zone here where the bar numbers are, it became yellow. This is the looping, or it's called cycle, but it's basically a loop. So when I press play here, and by the way, you're going to want to learn a few keyboard shortcuts if you want to work fast. So play, and then you see the playhead moving. You can also, and you just heard probably me clicking on my keyboard, you can also use the space bar to play and pause the recording. So again, when the playhead arrives at 5, it's going to go back to 1. There you go. This is very useful to work on an arrangement and not have to play the whole song every single time. So if you're working on your verse pattern, you can just loop 4 or 8 bars of the verse pattern and just have the verse looping over and over and over again, so you can listen to it and find the flaws or highlight the instruments that you want to highlight. All right. Here is the transport window, and it's telling you the tempo, the key, the time signature. We're pretty much going to stay in 4/4 for the whole tutorial, and the bars and beats. So if I move my playhead, you see that the beats and bars, go from 1 to 4 basically. Okay, and here I suggest strongly that you use the custom view for this transport window, because here it allows you, for example, to set the BPMs with decimals, such as 91.5, for example. Okay. Moving on to these buttons here, so we saw already what the cycle does. Here is the tuner. Right now it doesn't work because I'm not on a wave track. So if I move down to a wave track, and oops, sorry about that, I need to enable the record button. And remember, I did not define any input on my sound card. So if I want to be able to record, for example, a guitar and use the tuner to tune my guitar, I'm gonna have to go here and select an input on my sound card. So in this case, okay, and this brings me to mono tracks versus stereo. You see this little infinity icon here? If you click, when you have one circle, it becomes a mono track. And you can see also by the VU that it's a single track, versus this here, when it doubles for left and right. So we're going to go ahead and select a single, a mono track, and the input's going to be input 1. Now I can enable the record, and I can enable the tuner. So if, for example, okay, right now my mic is set up on it's a USB mic, so it's not using my Apogee Duet. So what I'm going to do to show you how to change inputs, we are going to go into Logic Pro X in the audio preferences. And here in this window, I can choose the input device. And instead, I'm going to use my mic, the 96K. I'm going to apply the changes. And now when I talk, you can see that the tuner is picking up musical notes based on the pitch of my voice. Now let's start making music using the Apple loops. Apple loops is one of the most interesting features for beginners in both GarageBand and Logic Pro X, because it allows you to just drag and drop anything from percussions to drums to keyboards, any sound. It's very, very broad, the variety in the Apple loops library that comes with Logic Pro X. So it really helps you start to just draft ideas on the fly, dragging and dropping Apple loops. So if you go here in the upper right corner, there is this loop icon, and if you click it, it's going to bring in a sidebar with the instrument browser. So you can go in here and say, for example, I'm looking for a shaker loop, and the list here is going to be filtered with only whatever has shaker in its title. So you can just then click once on a track and listen to the tracks. If you click once more, it stops the playback. As you can see, there are green musical notes and blue waveforms. So this takes us back to the difference between a MIDI track and an audio track. So let's drag in one of each. So I'm going to take this beach side shaker and drag it and drop it on my instrument 1. Okay. And here you can see those little rectangles, and if I zoom in, by the way, again, an interesting keyboard shortcut, if you press Alt and Command on the keyboard and you scroll up and down on your mouse wheel, it's gonna zoom on the, basically the number of bars. And if you just hold Alt down, you can make the tracks bigger in height. Let's say, for example, I want to duplicate this track here to get to my 4-bar mark. I'm going to hold down Alt, and I'm going to click and drag this track all the way to the 3rd bar, okay? So once more, I hold down Alt, click on my track, drag it, and unclick it, and here is a perfect copy. Okay, you could also use, Command C, put the playhead on the 3rd bar, Command V, and it would be the same thing for the copy. But I really like holding down the Alt button because it allows you to just go super fast, to copy. You don't have to click and use your pointer very precisely to copy. So here's my shaker, and I'm going to press the spacebar to play it. Okay, I don't need right now the click. Okay, so let's look at what a MIDI track is. Okay, so here if I highlight my track and I look here on the instrument slot, I have drum kits. So if I click once on this, I'm presented with this window here. So this is our first MIDI instrument that we're going to look at. Here on instrument, okay, I can't click on it, so I can't change the drum kit. But you can change the volume if you like, or the cutoff. Say, for example, if you want a more muffled sound. Okay. But I wouldn't use these guys too much. I would prefer to use plugins here on my channel strip instead, to either change the volume, change the kit, etc. The next thing we want to do is analyze the MIDI data, because maybe this groove right now is not perfect with the beat that we want to do. So what I'm going to do here is, oh, and by the way, if I wanted to have just a single loop, now that I have copied a second loop here, I can just drag and select the two, right click, and in bounce and join, hit join. What that's going to do is now you end up with only one loop to drag wherever in your arrange window. So let's double click on that MIDI track, and here at the bottom we have what's called the piano roll, and this is going to be a very, very important window pane when we are creating melodies, beats in MIDI. So here are all of the separate shaker hits that makes up this loop. Okay. The first thing I want to show you is the MIDI information that comes with each of these hits. So if we use again Alt Command and Alt with the mouse wheel, we can zoom in on this on these rectangles here. And if I select a bunch of these and double click, in my right pane here I have the information on the pitch, but especially the velocity. Okay, and this is how strong the hit is. So if, for example, I were to drag, well, actually click on this first value and drag, because all of these hits are selected, when I move my mouse up, I'm basically moving in velocity all of the hits that were selected. And see how the color changed? Basically in Logic, the closer to red the color is, the stronger the note is. And in the opposite, the closer to blue, if I selected this guy here and went all the way down, the more quiet the note becomes, okay? So I'm gonna go back to the original loop. And now I want to make something that is a bit more stutterish. So I'm going to go in there and using Shift, I'm going to just batch select a bunch of these guys here, okay? And I'm going to hit delete. So now, and I forgot to mention when I talked about the loop function, but you can wherever you're in your arrangement, you can just unselect and then click once, drag, and let go of the mouse button, and you can create any loop you want. So for example, right now I want to just listen to the first bar to see what's happening here when I deleted the notes. It almost has this islands bossa nova kind of groove now, which could be interesting depending on the beat that you're trying to make. So let's say I want to keep the original loop. Now let's look at a wave, an audio file for a shaker. So let's go back to our Apple Loops browser, and now instead I'm going to use a blue waveform, and I'm going to drag and drop this guy here on a blue track. Now because my loop is 4 bars long and this file here is only 2 bars, again I'm going to hold Alt and drag this loop to copy it to the 3rd and 4th bar. Now I want to listen to this this track in solo, so I'm gonna go here And you could also go here and hit the S button, and now the new shaker is playing. It's quite loud, so I can adjust the volume here, or you can also go here, and I suggest that you use these ones instead because it appears to not affect the mixer. So I actually never use these guys. I always use the faders from the mixer. So example, if I go minus 30 dBs and open up my mixer, I see here that the volume of this track now is at minus 30 dBs. So you can double click if you want to reset it, press 0, enter, and it's back to normal. So this is the Jamaican Ibis shaker that we have. I'm going to lower the volume, and now what I'm going to do is add more drums. So what I could do here is, to make more space, is use the pan. So let's hear what the pan is. Actually, it's pretty obvious, but it's going from left to right depending on where the little green light is. So going on the left, right. Okay, so let's make our first test in stereo balancing. I'm gonna unsolo the track, and now I'm going to put my MIDI shaker on the left and the audio shaker on the right. And now we can start balancing our beat. So they are equivalent in velocity. And if you look at the master out VU, we see that now the MIDI shaker is usually a bit louder, so we can bump up the Jamaican shaker a bit. All right, now that we have used a few Apple loops, what we're going to do is load up a great feature in Logic Pro X, which is the drummer. So what I'm going to do here is press New Track, click Drummer, and create a track. So the drummer is really a unique feature in Logic Pro because it's a hybrid between almost like an audio file, but it's really MIDI data that's driving those tracks. So here, by default, Logic is always creating two separate loops, one that is quieter for what I would think would be the verse, and one with more hits and louder for the chorus. And as you can see, the loops are 8 bars each, so I'm going to duplicate my MIDI shaker, and I'm also going to duplicate the audio shaker here. So again, because this had 2 loops, I'm dragging with the mouse, selecting the 2. I hit Alt down, and I drag those 2 all the way to the 4-bar mark. And now we need to make the loop bigger because it's now 8 bars long. Because my shakers are very quiet, I'm already going to go on this drummer track and lower the volume. Let's listen to that. Okay, so pretty simple raw groove. The same as for the MIDI track. If I double click on this, I get in the bottom pane the drummer options. So right now, this is a raw groove played by drummer Kyle and played on the SoCal kit. So you can all change these guys. Let's say, for example, I want to do something more urban. I could use the R&B drummers, go with Curtis, and keep the Neo Soul kit. Now you have a bunch of presets here, and if you click, you're going to see that the hits change. So let's go for Center City and listen to what it sounds like. Alright, so more laid back. The kit is drier, which is better for urban stuff. And the snare is actually a rim shot. So if I were to bump this yellow ball here all the way to loud, if my hypothesis is correct, the rim shot is now going to be a snare. All right. Let's move on to the drum kit, and all of these drums are clickable, and basically you can have them play or not. When they're yellow, obviously they're playing. So I need a kick. I for sure need a snare, but instead of the cymbals, I'm going to hit the hi-hat. And here, because it's highlighted, you can now change the groove. So from 1 is probably going to be much simpler, as you can see in the hits, and if you go all the way to the 6, it's going to create a more complex hi-hat pattern. So let's listen to that. I'm going to lower the volume of the Jamaican shaker. So we're getting a pretty interesting groove. We're working closer to something that sounds more like a hip-hop or an R&B beat. So now I want to make it a bit more soulful, for example. So I'm going to hit the hand claps. Let's try the second groove, and I'm also going to crank up the fills, because when I get closer to hitting the 8th bar mark, I want to have the drummer play an interesting fill, so that we know that we've gotten to the end of the loop and it's going to go back to 1, but prior to that the drummer is going to make something funkier. So let's listen to that. I'm liking the clap, but I think it could be a bit more, it could be louder. So let's press details here. Nope, sorry, not details. The Neo Soul kit here. And that's going to open up the kit window. So if I press on this little arrow here, I have the option of pushing the claps fader up. And now I hear a lot more of the claps. The same goes for the cowbell and the sticks, which are other percussions that you have access to from here. Okay, so let's play the whole 8 bars to hear the fills. So you heard here that the drummer was playing some more snare hits and a cymbal on the 5th bar, just so you know that you've moved up in intensity in the loop, which becomes very important when you're building a song arrangement. So I'm not going to need the second loop right now, so I can just delete it. But let's say, for example, that I had 8 bars of verse and I wanted to work on an 8-bar chorus pattern. I could go ahead, okay, and now is a new keyboard shortcut. If you press Command A, it selects all. So now I can just Option drag all of this here, move my loop by dragging it, then double click on the second drummer loop, and I'm gonna make this guy as loud but more complex. So now let's listen to the second chorus pattern. So the percussionists are getting funkier with the claps. I'm not sure I like it that much, but for now it's just an example, so let's keep it like that. Now I'd like to have a bigger sound on my drums. I feel like it sounds a bit too organic. So now we're going to look at the new urban loops in the Apple Loops browser to try and find a loop where we can take hits from and chop them up and layer them with the rest of the drums. So if I go here and I say, for example, hip, as in hip hop, I'm gonna have a new set of loops, and let's listen to a few of them. And by the way, if you have the word beat, this is how they named the files that are basically drum loops. So I'm gonna lower the volume a bit so you hear me talk. And let's listen to a few. And I think this bongo beat here has especially a nice clap. Not sure the kick is gonna fit in, but let's drag and drop this guy on our second audio track. And now I wanna get your attention on these two buttons here. These are the two quick tools that you can have access to. By default, the one on the left is the one that's always activated, and as you can see, it's the normal cursor, which is used to select, move around. So I always leave this cursor on the left. And on the right, I like this cross here because the cross allows me to do several things at once. I can select, but then if so this second cursor on the right is activated by holding down Command. See? So if I hold down Command and use the cross to highlight, if I click on the highlighted piece, it's going to cut it. So it's very, very useful, and I really think you should use the cross instead of the scissor tool to cut stuff, because it locks to the grid easily, so it's very easy to just cut and move around, stuff like that. All right, so that's exactly what we're going to do to our loop. So I'm going to solo the drum loop, and now it becomes very important to understand the grid in Logic. So an Apple loop is always going to fit on the grid. So you see that the main hits hit where those bar lines are. So that's where we're going to want to cut our loop. Now becomes a good example to use the scissor. And if I use Shift, Alt, and Command, I know this is very complex, but by hitting Command, you get the second tool on the right, so the scissors, and by pressing Alt, as you can see, don't think you can see really well, but there's a plus now, and what that does is, based on where I cut on the grid, it's going to cut at the equivalent intervals on the whole loop. And I use Shift because I want to make sure that it sticks on the grid. So if I do this, now I have a chopped up loop that I can remodel to fit the loop that I'm working on. So if I select all of these and move them out of the loop and unsolo the track, so it's kind of almost like an 808. So I could go ahead, for example, and on each of the bars, copy this big 808. Okay. All right. Now let's get this big clap in there. So I'm going to use this here, and usually in any beat, the clap, snare, rim shot, or whatever is going to be on each of the let me see, second and wait a second, this is a bar, 1 2 3 4, so on the 2 and 4. Okay, so if I drag here on the 2, so I could, because there's a, let's loop just a clap here and solo it to see what's in there. Okay, so there's a second kick here that I don't want, so I'm going to just by the way, when you go to the ends of a loop, you get these brackets. This is used to take away basically the information that you don't want. So if you don't see it, you don't hear it. And now it finishes a bit rough at the end. So what I'm going to do is show you another tool. If you go here, you have the fade tool. So to finish up this beat, we need 3 things: a bass line, some chords, and a melody. So the first thing that I'm going to do is load up a bass instrument on this instrument 2 track. So by selecting it and clicking and holding on the instrument slot, I can go in here and select Logic's presets. So I was thinking of a Rhodes piano. So I'm going to select a vintage electric piano and click stereo. Here's the main window, and if I play something, okay. Now you can play around with the effects here. I could, for example, boost the tremolo a bit. So this is the speed. I wanted to hit the intensity. All right. You can add a bit of boost in the bass, maybe a little less treble. Let's close this, and now I want to hit the record button. Make sure that the 1 2 3 4 and the click are on. So when I hit record, 2 3 4, okay, and now I have a 2-bar loop. So let's go back to using the marquee tool or the cross for editing this loop here, because as you can see, it's 3 bar long right now. So I want to cut this. So command click, drag, delete, and now I want to make sure that my playing was tight. If you're a great keyboardist, you probably never have to use quantizing because your feel is always right. But you can always go in here by double clicking, and you can if we look at it in more detail, you can see that I did not hit every single key exactly on the beat. So for example, the bass here I hit maybe a bit too late, so I'm going to move it. You can either drag it and move it like this and see it sticks to the grid, but this one now is a bit early, so you can hear in the time quantize, click and select where you want the notes to stick on the grid. And in this case, I'm going to hit 1/16 of a note, and ooh, see, the note is right on the 2-bar mark now. And the same here, those were played a bit too early, so I'm going to move them a bit. And because I want to give this a little bit of a live feel, I'm going to just make this one a bit late. You don't want everything to be perfect unless you're doing EDM. you want to keep that human feel, but it's always a good idea to quantize some of the notes. If you're playing a drum beat on your keyboard, for example, you might want to quantize all of the notes. So this option here is very useful. So I'm going to double click here to close the piano roll, and I'm going to copy my little loop 4 times. And I'm going to delete this junk because I'm not going to use it, I think. Here you go. So I don't really like the way I played this F chord at the end, so I'm going to delete that and I'm going to replay the whole thing. Alright, so let's go back in there, make sure that it's not too sloppy. And now I'm missing the bass. So what I could do is go here, take the G, and by holding Alt and dragging, I can just make a copy of those. Select those, drag it, it's the same length as the higher notes. And yeah, I'm even missing. Wait a second. So I was missing a B flat. Yeah, so I think the groove is a bit better on this. Again, I'm not trying to make the next top 40 hit. Now we need a bass instrument. So let's try the instrument library in Logic. And bass, I'm going to try, I don't know, let's try the Liverpool bass. So because I was on a MIDI track, now it loaded up an EXS24 instrument, which is the Logic native sampler. And let's listen to that. All right, so natural sounding electric bass. I'm going to close that, and we are going to try to play a bass line to the keys that we have here. So because I'm not sure what I want to play yet, or what I want to record, I'm just going to hit play, and I'm going to jam to it. Alright, so yeah, I haven't still decided what exactly I want to, hear on the track, but I'm gonna hit record and see what happens. Alright, so I think the first 2 bars were whack. I'm going to delete those. And let's see what we have here. So it's very funky. I don't think the track needs that, so I'm going to go ahead and delete those and play something in the pocket, something very simple that works. Okay, and because bass needs to lock in very tightly with the drums, I'm going to select all, Command A, okay, Command A, and I'm going to hit 1/16 swing A. What swing A does, and all of these swing patterns, is it doesn't show on the MIDI information, but it moves some of the notes a bit late or early to give it that groove. So I'm going to copy the bass, And let's listen to the beat now. So it's a bit loud, and now I was given the opportunity to put some distortion, and because I think that the sound is really soft and I want the beat to have at least a little bit of grit, I'm going to play around with the distortion here. So to activate a plugin on the channel strip, you need to click on the left part here where the power button here is, just once. And the same goes to edit the controls. You click on the center part here just once, and you are presented with the plugin window. So and notice that I didn't tell you what I was doing, because a lot in music is intuition and whatever you like. So just play around with these controls. Don't even care what they say or what they are. Just play around. Try stuff out. It's very important to let your creativity flow. So I wasn't really thinking of what I wanted to hear. I just stopped when I liked something I heard. So 6 dBs on the drive, and moving the tone all the way up because I want to hear the grit. So here it is. And last but not least, let's have a melody that singers could, inspire themselves from, and to just have this catchy little thing in the higher register to make the beat more, more interesting during the chorus, for example. So let's load up. I don't know, let's say the ESM monophonic synth. So this is one of the oldest soft synths that comes with Logic, but it really has a good character. It's thick, and it's mimicking the good old TB303 by Roland, so it's always a good thing in my mind. So here, with any Logic soft synths, you can go here in the menu and select a preset. So let's say, for example, I'm gonna try, I don't know, Mr. Q. Now, okay, sounding not too bad. Let's tweak the sound a bit. Always important to play with the glide when you're trying lead sounds out, especially if you want to give it that funky West Coast feel to it. So I'm just gonna freestyle a few plugins here. Maybe this needs a bit of delay, stereo delay. Okay, and I can even give this more grit. Okay, so I'm trying to get a lead sound that doesn't sound too corny. So I've already put some stereo delay on it, and now I'm going to try an amp designer. This is used for electric guitars primarily, but I always use these kinds of plugins on my soft synths, because soft synths tend to lack in character and soul. So by using an amp head, you can always get a bit more dirt on your super clean soft synths. Hear the difference? It already sounds more vintage, and because my percussions and my drums were very organic, I felt like I needed a synth sound that had that character. So let's loop and play the beat and jam over it. Alright, so that sounds okay. I'm not gonna record this line. I think you get the idea. I tried in this tutorial to use only Logic sounds. There's a bunch of soft synths plugins that you can use in Kontakt libraries to get a better quality and more character in your sounds, but I wanted to demonstrate how easy it is to just use the stock sounds and make something that sounds very good. So hope you found the tutorial useful. Obviously I couldn't go over every single little things that Logic has to offer. It's very, very deep program. So but I wanted to give you a few simple tricks and tools to get going fast. Because creativity doesn't last forever. So it's very important to have a workflow and a few good habits that allow you, when you have an idea in your head, to just go really fast on the computer and put ideas down. So don't hesitate to use the comments to ask more questions. And if you have suggestions for stuff that you want me to go more in depth in the program, let me know. And go out and make bangers. All right, thank you.